Multiply with variables. Example 1. Solve and reduce if possible. So here we have a problem that has a mix of numbers and variables. And like before, we're just going to go ahead and multiply the top together, and we're going to multiply the bottom together. So when we do that, we'll put the number first. So we have 20 on the top times, we have n times p times x. Then on the bottom, we have 10 times x squared. Now, we need to reduce this. And so we see we have numbers that we can reduce, and then we need to go over how to reduce variables. So kind of like we've done before, we'll just break this down into the factorization of it. So 20 can be rewritten as, if we were to break it down, 2 and 10, 2 and 5. So we go 2 times 2 times 5 times n times p times x. So that's on the top. And then 10 is just 2 and 5 from here, if we just see this. So we go 2 times 5. And then x squared can be just broken down into x times x. Our next thing will be to remove common factors. So we can remove this 2 and this 2, this 5 and this 5, this x and this x. So now we're left with 2 and n and p, and then on the bottom we're left with an x. So when we multiply that out, we have 2 n p over just x. So this would be the solution to this problem. Now, another way we could have gone about this problem is we could have rewritten it like this, and then we can cancel before we even multiply. So when we cancel, we remove common factors. So we have an x here on the numerator, and we have an x squared. So this x can be removed, and this just becomes a 1. This x squared just becomes 1, just 1x. Next, we can remove a 10 from here, and that becomes 1, because 10 divided by 10 is 1, and then 20 divided by 10 is 2. Now, we don't have any common factors, so we can now multiply at the top. So you have p, 1, 2, and n. And then on the bottom, we have 1 and x. So 1 times 2 is 2. And then we have n, p. Then on the bottom, we just have x. So you could see that we got to the same solution by going about it 2 different ways. Now let's look at another example. Solve and reduce if possible. So here we have another problem with numbers and variables. So if we were to write it out a little bit larger so we can see, we see that we have common factors on the top and the bottom. So this 4 and this 8, because they are one's the numerator, one's the denominator, we can remove a whole factor of 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Then the next thing would be to remove this x here. This will become a 1. And we're going to move a whole x here. So now we just have 1x. Because if we take out a whole x and we remove a whole 1 from the top, we only have 1 now. And next we have 3 and 9, which have a common factor of 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So now let's go ahead and multiply. We have 1 times x times 3 times y. And then on the bottom we have 1 times 2 times 1. Because remember, anytime you remove x over x is just equal to 1. That's why it's equal to 1 from a variable. So now let's go ahead and go on the top. We have 3 times 1, which is 3. Then we're left with an x and a y. Then on the bottom, we have 1 times 2, so that's just 2. And that would be our solution. Now, once again, you can do the factorization of this And so if you were to factor this all out, you can go 2 times 2 times x on the top over 3 multiplied by 3 times y over 2 times 2 times 2 times x. So that's a factorization of those numbers. And when you multiply them all together, we get 2 times 2 times 3 times x times y all over 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times x. Then we could remove common factors on top and bottom. This gets removed, this one can be removed, this 3 and this 3, this x and this x. So we're left with 3xy on the top, and then on the bottom we're left with just 2, which is our answer that we got on the top. So just another way to show you again how to get the same answer. Let's look at example 3. Solve and reduce if possible. So here we have our problem. So we have 6bc squared over 7a times 4c over 5ab. So once again, we're going to multiply the top numbers together and multiply the bottom numbers together. But before we do that, we're going to reduce if possible. So we're going to look for common factors on the top and the bottom. So on this numerator, we have a b and we have a b here. So we can cross these out. Now we look at the numbers, because these a's are both on the bottom, so we can't cancel them out. And then the c's are both on the top, so we can't cancel those out. Now let's look at the numbers. We have a 6 and a 7 and a 4 and a 5. So there's no common factors from the top and the bottom, because 6 and 5 can't be reduced, or 4 and 5 can't be reduced, or 6 and 7 can't be reduced, or 4 and 7 can't be reduced, as we have to look between the numerator and denominator for common factors. So we are left with multiplying 6 times 4 on the top, and then on the bottom we'll multiply those. So 6 times 4 is 24. Now we have c squared times c. So now we have 3 c's. So we just put c to the third power. Now 7 times 5 is equal to 35. We have an a here and an a here. So that means we have 2 a's. So we'll just show that as a squared. So this would be our solution to this problem.